Sure. You have a quorum of the board. You are a co-host to this meeting. Let's see, we are recording. I do think we are good to go.
All right, thank you, Pam.
You're welcome.
Welcome to the Amherst Planning Board meeting of June 17th, 2026. My name is Doug Marshall, and as chair of the Amherst Planning Board, I am calling this meeting to order at 6:35 p.m. This meeting is being recorded and is available live stream via Amherst Media. Minutes are being taken. The Planning Board will be joined by the Community Resource Committee of the Town Council for Agenda Item 2 in order to continue the public hearing for zoning bylaw Article 18, Clean Energy Infrastructure. Pursuant to Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021 and extended by Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023, and further extended by Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2025, this meeting will be conducted via remote means using the Zoom platform. The Zoom meeting link is available on the meeting agenda posted on the town website's calendar listing for this meeting. Or go to the Planning Board webpage and click on the most recent agenda where the Zoom link is listed at the top of the page. No in-person attendance of the public is permitted. However, every effort will be made to ensure the public can access the meeting in real time via technological means. In the event public access is disrupted for reasons of economic hardship or despite our best efforts, we will put an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting on the town's website. Board members, I will take a roll call. When I call your name, unmute yourself, answer affirmatively, and return to mute. Bruce Colden.
I'm here.
Fred Hartwell. Do we have Fred? Yes. Fred? Fred, we can't hear you. I can see you and you are unmuted. I think you're having an audio problem, but for right now, I will confirm that you are present. Jesse Major.
I am present. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, Doug Marshall. I'm present. Angus McLeod.
Present.
Johanna Newman had told us last meeting that she would not attend this evening's meeting. And Jara Smith.
Present.
Thank you all. During the meeting, if technical issues arise and the discussion needs to pause, it will be noted in the minutes. Please use the raise hand function to ask a question or make a comment, and I will call on you to speak. After speaking, remember to remute yourself. To the general public, when solicited, please indicate you wish to make a public comment by clicking the raise hand button. If you have joined the Zoom meeting using a telephone, please indicate you wish to make a comment by pressing *9 on your phone. When called on, please identify yourself by stating your full name and street address and put yourself back into mute when finished speaking. Residents can typically express their views for up to 3 minutes or at the discretion of the Planning Board chair. If a speaker does not comply with these guidelines or exceeds their allotted time, their participation may be disconnected from the meeting. Okay, the first item is old business. It's a legacy of SPR 2024-04. The applicant is the town of Amherst and the property is at 70 Southeast Street. In accordance with conditions number 16 and 17, we will review plans for signage, bike racks, and benches. All right, so Pam, do we have a representative from the school project present?
You do. Tim Cooper there he is. He has arrived.
Great.
Good
Welcome,
evening.
Tim.
Thank you.
We're prepared to have you present the material that you're here to show.
Sure.
Before you start, Fred, you have your hand raised. Do you want to just check your audio? I'm sorry, it's not working. You are unmuted on our end, but we do not hear you. No. Okay, Tim, why don't you go ahead and
Sure. I am going to share what I have for you. Here is the site plan of the school project. I was last before you over 2 years ago, before construction documents were complete. It was then the Fort River School. It is now the Amethyst Brook School. And just a few of the items that you requested updates on the time, I'm going to share with you. One was site signage. There is one site sign at the north entrance that grants access to all of the parking on site. The south entrance is for bus and van and service drop off only. So there is not a sign that would direct traffic there. The sign will be located between the service drive, the main drive and the sidewalk, on the parcel about 30-40 feet back from the right of way, and behind the first stop line for cars, behind the first car at the stop line, so that visibility is not obstructed. So I'm gonna go. This is the sign. It's been discussed in several meetings with the school building committee school building committee. It's within zoning regulations for Amherst in terms of area and height of size, which I believe is 30 square feet and 10 feet high. This is a simple sign, which is what the building committee settled on. They didn't want any architectural statements, anything flashy, certainly not anything illuminated or changing in terms of information. So it's the school color with a white typeface, a little over 8 feet wide and just under 6 feet tall, to mark the entrance of the school. Granite posts and a composite aluminum panel between them that will be painted. This will be installed as part of phase 2. Which will be in the fall of 2026, when the existing school was demolished and the site work north of the building that will then be open proceeds.
Tim, will there be a sign at the bus and the bus entrance that says something about that the public shouldn't be using that?
So there is no specific prohibition of public driving there. And there is even talk with Mike O'Connell, the director of facilities, about possibly adjusting. But during school pickup and drop off, it will be directed by staff. So there should not be any confusion.
Okay. All right, board members, any comments on the signage here, the site sign? I assume this is really the only sign.
This is really the only sign that is we have for your review. The rest of the signs are traffic directional, stop signs, stuff like that, which I assume is less of your purview and not on the public way.
Okay.
And then there was also conditions in the original findings of I'm just going to quickly show you the benches and bike racks because that was requested. Here's a photo from last week, actually, that shows the progress. So a lot has happened in the past 2 years. You can see the playground and the area north of the building. All of these isolated concrete slabs will eventually be paved around, but that is where the benches are going. You can see one of the square ones. The rest are obscured by trees and planting. That's where the backless benches will go, and then the other areas next to the playground will have the benches with backs. So this is just the manufacturer's data that shows you what this stuff looks like. It's folded metal benches with perforations for thermal comfort and so that they drain, and then there are recycling and waste receptacles. This is shown in 2 colors. Everything is the brown color to go with the brick that is selected for the exterior of the building. So this is what the site furniture will look like. And this is what the bicycle rack will look like. There are 22 of them on site in groups of 10 and 12. Just going back to the photo to show you where they are. Each one will support easily 2 bikes, or 2 bikes can easily be locked to it. Half of them will be underneath this PV canopy drop off, so they'll be protected from the rain, and the other half will be close to the main entrance. So 44 total bicycles can, without any sort of clumping, be blocked up. So those are the items that were requested when I was last before you.
And what's the finish on the bike racks?
The finish on the bike racks is the same as the benches. It is a powder coated. The color is, I have chips that I could show you. Rust, but it's very close to the brick that is the darker part of the building, and it's a powder coating, which is pretty durable.
So it's not a Corten steel, which comes to mind when I see the renderings.
No, it is not a Corten steel, and Corten steel, if you sit on it, it will leave a
Right.
mark on you, which is not ideal for benches.
Right. Okay, good. Okay, board members, any comments? Well, I see two hands at the moment. Fred Hartwell? I am not hearing you, Fred.
Hmm.
All right, well, I'm gonna lower your hand and you can bring it up when you, okay. And Pam Rooney, your hand is up.
Pam Rooney, 42 Cottage Street. The sign looks lovely, but it has only one face. So are you going to repeat the wording with the name of the school so people coming from the north and south will know that that is the entrance?
I so understood. The plan was conceived as being facing the street so that it could be visible from further away, but it can easily be turned 90 degrees so that to maximize visibility. And then in terms of printing, it's a both-sided printing process, so the text could be repeated. And I think that makes sense. I mean, the fabrication has not been completed and shop drawing, so turning it 90 degrees to increase the visibility is certainly a possibility and easily enough to accomplish.
All right, sounds like something to consider. Bruce Coldham.
Tim, you said it wasn't an illuminated sign, and I think that may have meant that it wasn't a neon type sign. I can't remember. I should know, but I can't remember whether the sign itself is illuminated independently from a ground light or so, so that it can be seen during the evening hours. Is it?
You are absolutely correct. It is, I was less than perfectly clear. It is not a luminous sign in the sense of neon or a TV screen or anything like that, but there are ground lights that will illuminate the sign itself. So it is visible at night.
And Doug, I could say that this building committee felt that the sign facing the street was sufficient, I think, but that was that particular group, and so it's been reviewed as you see it by the school building committee, of which I'm a member.
All right. Well, I guess I'll invite other members if they have an opinion about the orientation of the sign and whether it's perpendicular to the street or parallel, or whether we just leave it as a comment for the building committee to consider if they want to think about this anymore. Fred, see your hand again.
Nope.
Nope, still no audio, Fred. You might consider leaving the meeting and coming back in. All right, I don't see any other hands. Angus, go ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to say, I think it could make a lot of sense just to defer to the building committee on what they think is best for the sign orientation.
All right, thank you. That's my inclination too. Anyone else have any comments? Looks like All right, so in that case, I think, Tim, we'll just thank you for coming to show us the signs and the site furniture. I think you've met the requirements of the permit that we asked you to come back, and good luck with the project.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be working on it.
Great, thank you. Okay, time is 6:50. We'll go to the second item on the agenda, which is the joint public hearing with the Community Resource Committee, the zoning bylaw amendment for Article 18, clean energy infrastructure. This hearing of the Planning Board is continued from May 20th, 2026 and June 3rd of 2026. To consider amending the zoning bylaw by adopting Article 18, clean energy infrastructure, and associated amendments to zoning table 3, dimensional regulations, section 5.11, renewable energy accessory solar photovoltaic installations / battery energy storage systems uses, and section 6.2 fences, and Article 12 definitions. So this hearing of the Planning Board is now open. And I'd like to invite Pam Rooney to call the meeting of the Community Resource Committee to order.
Hi, I see not everyone here. I see Jennifer Taub, Pam Rooney, and we need at least one more person. I'm looking for Andy Churchill or Alicia Walker to join us. Mandy Johanneke will not be here tonight.
Okay, in that case, should we do a couple of other relatively short
Yeah,
things on our agenda
Yeah,
while we
that's
wait
perfect.
for someone
Perfect.
else to show up? Okay. In that case, we'll skip to item 3 on our agenda, the meeting approval of planning board meeting minutes. We have minutes from March 18th available for approval. Board members, were there any comments on those minutes as drafted by our staff? Okay, I don't see any hands. In that case, does anybody want to make a motion to approve the minutes as drafted? Bruce?
So moved.
Thank you. And Jesse?
I'll second that.
All right. Any comments and discussion by the board? Fred, I see your hand. Fred, I'm still not getting any audio. I'm so sorry. Okay, in that case, we'll go ahead and do a vote. Fred, I'll ask you why don't we start with you, and you can just indicate thumbs up or thumbs down for the approval of the minutes. Thumbs up, I see as approval. Thank you, Fred. Bruce?
I'm an aye, a yes.
Thank you. Angus?
Aye.
Jesse?
Aye.
And Jara?
Aye.
I'm an aye as well. That's 6 in favor, 1 member absent. The motion carries. The minutes from March 18th are approved. Great. Pam, I have not seen anyone else arrive yet, so I'll go to another item. Pam, I'm going to ask you Pam Field Sadler. I'm going to ask you and Walker, I'm going to ask you some questions. First of all, do we have, other than the old business that we just conducted, do we have any other old business topics that we did not reasonably anticipate 48 hours in advance?
I did want to just bring one topic up, which is the downtown design standards. Just a reminder that we're looking for feedback on those before the end of the month or by the end of the month.
Okay. All right. Okay,
And
so great. Then I'll ask a similar question about new business, which is topic 6 on our agenda. Did we have any unanticipated new business?
Not that I'm aware of.
No.
All right. All right. Pam, do we have any A&Rs?
We do have an A&R.
All right. Well, I just saw Andy show up, actually. I just noticed Andy's arrival. Pam, why don't we come back to the A&R and we'll let we'll go ahead and start the or let CRC start the hearing.
thank you. I'm going to call the meeting for the Community Resource Committee together. And I'm looking around. Jennifer Taub, are you here?
Yes, I'm here.
Andy Churchill.
Yes, finally got my computer to go.
And Pam Rooney is a yes. I don't see Alicia Walker, but we will add her in when she shows up. But we do have a quorum and we are able to open our meeting to join you again.
Thank you. Welcome.
And Fred looks like he has a comment.
Well, I was going to see, Fred, do you want to say anything and try your audio again? I do not hear anything. All right, Pam, why don't we pick up where we were?
Okay.
We can definitely
Just to-
see Fred's hand when he puts it up,
Yep.
so we
Yes.
can give him another.
So to recap for everyone who has pretty much been here for the whole time, we have made our way through the document. There are a number of just small comments, editorials, and changes that we pretty much agreed to as we made our way through the document. I have documented those on my copy, and I actually sat with Mandy Johanneke this morning. We went through all of those. So she, unless there are a few items that that we sort of left as hanging questions, and we'll try to go back to those tonight. We left off with the tables for table 3 and table 5.11. Before we get into that, though, I want to just give a quick overview of schedule. So we've had 3, this is the 3rd of our joint meetings. The CRC is not going to close its hearing and vote until the planning board does, because it is our conclusion that triggers a 90-day count and responses to council, et cetera. So we are going to essentially wait for the planning board to make its final deliberations and vote on the document and refer that to us. That looks to be that July 1 is your next opportunity to either, to continue the hearing and then close it and report to the CRC. The document that we end up with tonight with corrections and changes will get cleaned up tomorrow by Mandy Johanneke, and it will go to KP Law for its legal review. We are going to ask KP Law to kindly get it back to us by July 10, which is after your next meeting but before your July 15 meeting, which is pretty much July 15 is pretty much the last date that we can hear back from the planning board and still make the October 1 deadline with two readings of the bylaw in the council and then a vote. So that's I can share the calendar at another time and send it to all of your members, but that's sort of the gist of it.
Pam, will the version that Mandy, Joe, and whoever finalizes or puts together tomorrow or in the next few days, will that be available for the planning board to review prior
Yes,
for its July 1 meeting?
yes, yes,
Okay.
yes. And I also want to publicly thank Walker Powell for the work that she's done the last couple of meetings. Thank you so much. It's invaluable because we just this is so important to get it captured and documented. And we're going to ask you again tonight, please, to help us with that. So tonight's document should be saved as version 13 with today's date, and that is what you'll see early next week or the end of this week as the document to work on or to think about.
Okay, I see Bruce's hand.
Yes, I just, Pam, you said that KP Law's review won't be back until July 10, thereabouts, plus or minus. And to you and Doug, is it appropriate for the planning board to deliberate on the document as version 13? Or should we wait until KP Law has given the deliberation before we make a decision?
Well, I think you will have tonight's version to work from. Tonight's version is what's going to KP Law, and
Yep.
then so as a group, we're all going to be looking for their feedback on tonight's version.
So we would wait until we get that feedback before we close the make our decision and close the public hearing.
It's up to you, but it makes sense to have the legal feedback.
Okay, and the schedule allows for that, but only just.
Barely, yes.
Yeah, that's why I was wondering whether it would be prudent for one of us to move forward. I mean, basically, we could move forward, and I guess we can discuss that amongst
Yeah, we can
ourselves on
discuss
June
that,
1st.
whether we want to recommend the version, lucky number 13.
Right.
And then we could come back later and, recommend or not recommend number 14 if there has to be one.
Right. Right.
Okay.
And I'm
It is-
expecting
and-
that in fact there might be some final tweaks once we get back KP Laws.
Pam, is it advantageous to you for us to make our recommendation on the 1st of July, or is it just the same if we do it on the 15th? I know it's tighter, but it's.
I think it makes sense to do it on the 15th because then you will in fact have KP Laws commentary.
Okay.
And
All right,
we
so
all be
Walker,
voting.
you will need to quickly get the word from KP Law into our packet
Yeah.
for the 15th. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, great.
And maybe sooner, but we don't know. We're asking them to expedite because so this document could have gone to them at the very beginning, but in fact, I forgot first of all, and it hasn't really seemed to make much sense to do it while it was still in formulation.
Mm-hmm.
So Walker, we have tonight's version, and I think you have access to that, right?
I seem to only have version 12.
Well, that's tonight. Yeah, if you want to just
tonight,
save
okay.
it as the 13th.
Okay.
That would be wonderful. And we're going to go to the very end where there are 2 tables.
Okay.
I put in, while she's getting that up, I put in a last minute request to see if Rob Mora would be available to help perhaps answer some of the questions specifically about applicability. What, as building commissioner, when we look at this table, which is table 3, there are a number of items that are listed as yes, approval by building commissioner. And just want to double check that, in fact, Rob Mora, who would be administering that, understands and is comfortable with that. Great, thank you. Thank you, Walker. And if folks could keep an eye out and see if Alicia Walker does show up, I'll make sure she gets acknowledged. Thank you. So last time we left off here, and this table was structured initially by Chris Brestrup, and we have to date really not made many changes to it. But I wondered if we could walk through, I'm thinking row by row, to sort of understand the categories and the conditions. So on the left is the land use classification, and the very first row is the building mounted canopy solar photovoltaic installations, up to a fairly significant number of kilowatts, up to 25,000 kilowatts. That 25,000 kilowatts is where the state steps in and says anything larger than that, we manage all of the permitting for large projects. We recognize that there would be very, very few, if any, projects of this size specifically that are building mounted or canopy, even if they include agrivoltaics, the agricultural application of SPI. So that, with that in mind, we're looking at across the board in the outlying and low density residential, in neighborhood residential, in village center, in general residential, and for even fraternity residential, it would be a yes, it would be by building commissioner approval administratively. In the other more commercial zones, it's listed here as by permit granting authority for the principal use. So it's unlikely that you would have projects of much size at all, and we don't necessarily want to encourage large projects in the downtown, in the limited business, where it's much more lucrative for the town to have viable commercial or, construction. Does anyone have any comment on that row?
Well, Pam, the FPC, flood prone
Conservancy,
conservancy, that's
Yeah.
not a downtown urban.
right. What are you thinking would be an
Well,
appropriate?
it's just sort of an oddball in terms of
Yes,
how
yes.
you've done all of this. And okay, all right. I won't make any comments about that then.
You could.
Bruce,
It does seem a bit odd though, because when you go down to the ground mounted, you've got 250 kilowatts, and that, by the way, is maybe 30 houses size, 30 house roof sizes. And from then on down, there's no in the floodplain conservancy. But a building mounted in canopy is that because in the floodplain you might have houses? I can't remember whether houses would be allowed in a floodplain. Doesn't seem logical, but is that why it's by the permit granting authority as opposed to just another no?
I'm trying to remember if houses are allowed, and I'm wondering maybe if Stephanie or Walker knows. I'm thinking sheds, small, farm sheds Might be you could have a small system on a farm shed.
Yes, but you can't do it on the ground.
Well,
It's
you
quite-
can have agrivoltaics.
Okay. Okay, well, maybe we just have to let this one go and figure it out with a change in the bylaw because it sounds like it might be kind of complicated, and letting the permit granting authority make a determination is probably going to be a feedback mechanism that will inform us as to what actually
Yeah, at the
needs to
moment,
happen.
it's more permissive than all of the other ground mounted. So that particular one, I guess, is okay. I guess then we can talk about whether we should have some yeses or site plan review under the lower rows for FPC, but we can come back to that. Bruce, do you have anything else, or can we put down your hand? Okay.
Okay, next row, next category, actually. So this is ground mounted solar with or without co-located BESS. So it could be a very small SPI or SPI with BESS. Tier 1, the very smallest of up to or under 250 kilowatts, we have basically administrative approval across the board, except in those districts where we want to encourage, again, this is ground mounted, we want to encourage commercial uses or retail uses rather than solar uses. They would still be, something that small would still be used, appropriate as a building mounted or canopy.
So the only one that I mean, other than the FPC discussion, which I think we probably could also have, the BG, the BG is not a very extensive area. But I could imagine in concept, somebody taking, I don't know, 10 acres and developing it with, say, I don't know, 6 or 8 houses and having another couple of acres devoted to solar. And then, selling it that, hey, your power will never go out because you've got your own solar array to keep your houses powered. Is that one where we might go to site plan review or at least special permit, just to say, well, that's something we would consider, but not automatically approve?
I would suggest that in the BG, in the downtown district, we probably wouldn't want to encourage 3 acres of land being turned into solar when we could have somebody paying taxes on a 5-story building.
Well, I mean, we don't have 5-story buildings in the BG at all.
In the BG, yes, we do.
Oh, you're right. Never mind. That was
You were thinking
Framework.
RG? Are
yeah,
you
I was
thinking
I
RG?
was thinking RG. So
Do you want to talk through that again with RG?
yeah. Okay. So
Okay.
in that case, never mind. Never mind. Yeah.
Okay. Did everybody follow that?
So hey, Bruce, you've been our source for how much acreage is needed for 25,000 kilowatts. Is 250 kilowatts, is that just 2 or 3 acres, or is that?
Yes, I was just trying to redo that. I figured out that 25,000 is probably about 30 acres.
Yeah.
So if you divide it by 100, you've got a third of 0.3 of an acre. That kind of makes sense. So what we're talking about is, because I generally speaking, it's about 7 kilowatts, because the trouble is that the efficiency of these devices has been improving since I used to do all this in my head, and that was like 10 or 15 years ago. So 7 kilowatts was a a big, was a substantial array. So that's why I said 250 is 30 houses, and 30 houses is but about, I don't know, some 800 square foot, let's say. So it's 30 by 800 is 24,000.
24,000.
So that's half an acre. So it feels like you say between a third and half an acre is, let's say half an acre, because it's easy to remember, is about what we're talking about here with the T1, the tier one,
Yeah.
about half an acre.
Yeah, depending on the setbacks.
Now, this is just the size of the array.
Okay.
The actual array is half an acre. By my semi back of the envelope calculations with, so it's small in terms of what we're talking about here, but it's still huge in terms of you know, an array that's in the RG, for example. If someone put a half acre array in the RG, it would certainly stand out.
Mhm.
So in that sense, the parcels where I live on Cottage Street, they're a quarter of an acre, so it would take two house lots to create something of a tier one up to a tier one.
Limit, yes, to the max of tier one.
Well, it
So
would
back,
take more. It would take more just because the two house lots
Oh,
would be the
plus the
array,
setbacks.
and then you'd have the setbacks and the
Yeah,
fence
Yeah.
line and all of that.
so again, that while it could certainly fit or be considered for the RG or the RVC or any of the residential districts, in the more commercial zones, we probably wouldn't want to be designating acres of ground mounted solar panels over the ability to build commercial structures and tax them.
yeah.
But
I mean,
if that were the case, it's still an administrative approval or simply not allowed where we prefer other activity.
yes. I mean, at the moment, Y means by right or administrative approval. So there's
Yes.
and so my sense is that an array of anything like that size would basically not be viable. I mean, it wouldn't be the highest and best use of a
Right.
high price lot in the middle of town, unless somebody was putting a huge building right underneath it, and that would be subject to all sorts of other regulatory constraints. So maybe the thing is right, as you put it, and my guess is that staff have thought about this and have just said, yes, that's not complicated by trying to fractionate this all the way down so that we get, so we try and get a sharper instrument and so forth. I mean, it feels okay to me, even though when I did the math initially in my head a moment ago or the other day, it seemed like it was a bit odd to allow by right such a huge, potentially up to such a huge array in, I'm just saying RG because it's the tightest residential neighborhood. But I think the market forces and other regulatory constraints are going to protect us from anything that's beyond stupid.
Thank goodness.
Do you think that, Doug? Would
Let's-
you
Yeah,
agree with
I
that?
guess I'm okay with this the way it's structured, you know. I mean, we do have a yes, 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 and yes for the COM, the OP, the LI, and the PRP, and those are a little more outlying. And again, I think economics will limit the amount of instances we end up with in those areas.
So tier 2, which is 250 kilowatts up to 1,000 kilowatts, is now looking at site plan approval in the outlying and low density and neighborhood residential areas, not allowed in the more dense residential areas, and yes, allowed by site plan approval in commercial, light industry, and PRP. We could talk about the office park. Office park again says no, we don't want, we just don't want it in office park. And that's possibly a conversation that could be had. We have, I think, and maybe Walker could confirm this, we have only one office park location in town, and that is University Drive. And we've already given that an overlay saying we really want high density housing there. We're not too excited about ground mounted solar.
Pam, I see Angus's hand, and I'm glad
Yep.
Angus has got his hand up because I think he's been thinking about this area, this zone, along with PRP recently.
Yeah, I'll just briefly say, Pam, in total agreement that, the OP is already has the overlay on it. We've been talking about trying to make changes to the PRP to possibly allow some forms of housing. And in the conversations with town staff around that, they actually would recommend shifting what is currently the 3 or 4 parcels in OP to BL. It's already got the overlay. And then it might make sense to actually just eliminate the office park designation as a separate designation from PRP, but that's a different conversation. But yeah, I don't think that there needs to be any kind of exception for OP with solar arrays.
Great.
All right, so it sounds like people are generally okay with the tier 2 designations.
Tier 3 gets up from 1,000 kilowatts to our locally authorized 25,000 kilowatts, and that would be by special permit in any district where it's allowed, the rest being not allowed.
Yeah, I guess this is the one that jumped out at me. I think in the spirit of trying to encourage installations, that I was going to suggest that the special permits be made site plan review, and we can come back to that. Angus, I see your hand.
Yeah, I was also going to suggest moving the commercial to special permit, or it's similar to the others. So I guess separate from what Doug just said, if it was special permit, we could. There's not a ton of commercial zones, so I don't think that this would necessarily happen. But we could make a designation. We could make a determination on the project brought before us. And we may end up suggesting more commercial zones in the future and more options for what can happen in commercial zones as we think about the East Amherst commercial corridor and the study that's being done there. So I would vote special permit for that. That might be a different thing if we're talking about moving to site plan review.
Mm-hmm. Well, I just
I'm
wanted
sorry.
to
I'm sorry. Could Angus state that he would support what? I heard
moving the tier 3 commercial from no to special permit.
All right.
Walker, could you put your cursor on that so we can sort of keep our eye on? Yes, thank you. Thank you. Changing that to SP. Bruce?
Yep, that was the proposal.
Um,
Bruce?
Only to say that we are talking, when we're talking 1,000 kilowatts up to 25, we're talking arrays of 2 acres to 30 acres. And it seems that the commercial, and I put my hand down a moment ago when that was because Angus was saying we might want to biggerize the commercial zone. So maybe, but still, we have to, logically, the N is not, no, you can't, it's not allowed. The N is for no, it's not possible because there isn't enough commercial space to allow a tier 3 to exist on it. It's just the commercial zone is not big enough.
Yeah. Something else that occurred to me is that this category, the tier 1, 2, and 3, is SPI with or without co-located BESS. So there's, when you get up to the 25,000 level, I would guess that there's a pretty high chance of having some BESS associated with that. And again, that may be part of the driver for the N and the SPs in this case. Angus.
Sorry. Um, I mean, I definitely don't think we're going to take the entire commercial and turn it into 30 acres of a solar farm, but 2 acres, I think, in different parts of the commercial zone could actually make sense. Especially there's a commercial zone just south of Amherst College that's currently, I think, a lumber yard and other things. If in the future that changed hands, I think I'd make total sense for a larger solar array. So I guess my inclination would be give people the option to bring something to us, and then we can shoot it down if we feel like it's inconsistent with how these zones are trending. Because a special permit does not mean any kind of guarantee, and most developers see it as a hurdle that is not worth clearing. So that would be my inclination.
Anyone opposed to inserting an SP in that box? I don't see any hands. Let's give that a try and just highlight it so that we recognize that as a change. Great, thank you. Then we move to standalone BESS.
Hold on. I'm going to put
okay.
in one last pitch here. I think, you know, for us to say that we won't allow any large-scale solar arrays in town without a special permit and all the uncertainty that comes with that is really throwing a lot of cold water on the whole thing. For us to, you know, shoulder our burden of powering the future, we need to be allowing some substantial energy to be produced in town in order to just feed our own energy use. So I think this is really going to discourage any large arrays in town, and maybe that's what you know, the majority wants to do. But I think that this is a negative structure for us to promulgate.
Bruce.
All right.
So Doug, to be clear, are you suggesting therefore that in the RLD, RO, and or in the RLD at least, that the SP should be SPR? Is that?
Well, I'm just saying, you know, to put together the full consolidated permit and do it under having to get a special permit as part of that, it feels like it's a huge amount of upfront cost.
I'm supporting. I just want to make sure, because you're
Yeah.
saying you're arguing
Yeah,
against,
at least the RO, RLD, and RN, I guess. You know,
and you would make it SPR.
Yeah, I would go to SPR.
Okay, that's what I wanted to figure out.
Okay, I mean, you know, to me, more SPRs would be more supportive. But I think that just looking at the geography of town and how the zones lay out, you know, at least RO, RLD, and RN is kind of what I would at least argue for.
Angus.
Yeah, I would agree. I think one of the hard things is tier 3 is just such a large category, which makes sense. But there seems to me a pretty big difference between a 2-acre development of solar arrays and a 30-acre development. So it does seem like, but I don't know where that line should be. That, you know, in developing this, y'all clearly thought about that a lot. So I'd be inclined to move those first 2 categories, RO and LD, and RN to SPR as well. But I also, I guess, want to express I have very little hesitation around that for a 2 to 5 acre or even 10-acre project, and maybe more hesitation around a 20 to 30-acre project.
Well, you know, Angus, that's something that it also occurred to me our tier 2 could get larger and, you know, not make tier 3 so wide in its size. But anyway, Pam, can I call on Bruce?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what I was going to suggest. Well, my suggestion was that maybe we need a tier 3 becomes 1,000 to 5,000, and then tier 4 becomes 5,000 to 25. But another way of doing it would be to have it 250 to 5, because once you get to a 2-acre array size, which is, we figure, is the 1,000 kilowatts, in the RO and outlying RLD and so forth, you might want to do a 3-acre one, but you couldn't without, well, you'd have to get a special permit, which is Doug's point. So I do think it's not as it's not as supportive. It's not as clearly supportive of a clean energy policy that we think the town has or should have, to put an SP in there, except when it gets truly large. And I would say that 5,000 kilowatts would be truly large, because then you've got what did we say, 10 acres. So now we're getting that's a big array. And I think that I would think that having a special permit requirement for a 10-acre array in town is not unreasonable. But I agree with you, Doug. I think that up to 5, and I'm just picking the number in my head, just somewhere less than 10, but more than 1. And then adjust the table so that arrays up to 5,000 kilowatts are by site plan review, and either by putting in another line or by adjusting tier 2.
Right. Jesse,
Thanks.
and then Andy.
I guess I'd ask, what was the rationale for making tier 2 up to 1,000? What was the line there that was considered? Like, not that we need to relitigate the whole conversation, but was there a clear logic to that size versus something bigger? And just
Stephanie, I'm going to go to Stephanie, who has her hand up to answer that.
Another comment I'll just add is, it's been a while since I thought very deeply about this, but I thought there were studies saying, we have enough built structures already to put solar on top of, rather than taking new land for bigger arrays. But is there a way we can incentivize that over some of these larger arrays? Thanks.
Stephanie.
Thanks, Pam. So the size classifications were all recommended in the state's draft model bylaw. So that's where the range of classifications came from. I just wanted to make that clear, that that's where they were from.
And so the 1,000 kilowatts is a couple of acres, up to maybe up to 4 acres, and that seemed reasonable with local authorization. Andy.
Yeah, I guess I just wanted to check the math, because I heard earlier that 25 kilowatts is 30 acres. So 5,000 kilowatts would be 6 acres, and 1,000 would be about a little over an acre. I don't know if that's, I don't know if I'm doing the math right, but I just, I think we ought to have a sense of that.
I thought I heard that 250 kilowatts was somewhere between 1/2 to a third. Stephanie has her hand up
I think it's
again.
a half acre. I think depending on the efficiency of the devices used, then because and it's going to get more efficient. I put it at half an acre, the 250, which would mean that the 1,000 would be 2 acres.
So that's twice as large as I had done my math with. So, yeah.
When you had 25,000 kilowatts equaling 30 acres, right?
That was my calculation, Andy, yes.
So then if you divide by 30 by 25, you're down to almost an acre, a little over an acre per 1,000.
Yes, so that's I'm saying, depending on assumptions made on efficiencies and things like that.
Okay.
I'm just I think the range is dependent on assumptions-based efficiencies, and I said my knowledge of this is a little old, but nonetheless, not all panels are the same, and I suppose the more expensive ones, the more efficient ones, are the ones they're going to put on buildings where the premium is higher. And when you're just covering farmland, when you're covering land, probably you're going to use less efficient devices, maybe, I don't know. So maybe you're right, it gets bigger as you go into these ground-mounted things, but we're getting a little fussy here. I think that safely we could say that broadly speaking, 25,000 is about 30 acres, and broadly speaking, about 1,000, which is probably about half an acre, because they're probably going to get more effective as they get smaller.
I think
The
you said
installations,
1,000
I
was more
mean.
like 2 acres.
Sorry, did I say, yes, sorry, 2 acres.
So tier one, if we were to recap this, and what I've heard is a couple suggestions. One is to perhaps tweak that upper limit. So we might have something like tier two is greater than 250 kilowatts and up to maybe 2,500 kilowatts. And
Yeah.
that gives us a range that's a little larger, a little more supportive, but it doesn't throw us into the range of tens of acres.
Yeah. Oops, I should have mine muted.
Does anybody have any thoughts about the Angus?
I think that's a good plan. I don't know where it would make the most sense to draw the line. None of us are solar power experts, but I think a slightly larger amount makes sense for these outlying areas.
So let's make that change, and maybe KP Law is going to come back and say, you know, you're not following the state guidelines, and in order to be fair across the Commonwealth, you must change your table, and maybe we wait for that kind of feedback.
All right, so for tier two, at the higher end, I've heard 5,000, 10,000, and 2,500.
Yeah, where are we putting it?
Bruce.
2,500, I like Pam's suggestion. And then if KP Law does what she says, then Doug, it's not the town of Amherst that is being disincentivized, it's a state policy, and we can say, oh, we did our best.
Angus.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the model zoning bylaw from the state, and ours would be more relaxed than their requirements. So I can't imagine that the law firm would find us at fault if we're giving more options for solar installations than what the state bylaw itself does.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for checking that. So this all makes sense. It looks, you know, we've given this some good thought. We should move down to standalone BESS, and these are literally the storage units. We have all kinds of wording in here on how they must be contained, they must, et cetera, et cetera. That said, they are still battery storage units. And do people have, I think the tier one, I think we were looking up the size of something like that. It's not a large element. It might be like a 3x4 by 5 cabinet. Tier two at 1,000, anything larger than that might be up to 7 or 8, like an 8x10 size cabinet. Bruce.
What's the logic in saying that you can't have the smaller one, but you can have the larger one by special permit? Wouldn't it logically go the other way? Is there a reason why in the RVC, for example, or the office park, we don't have to spend too much time on? I agree with Angus on that. Let's take the RVC. The smaller size BESS, it's not allowed. The larger tier two is allowed. with a special permit.
Oh, interesting. Yep.
What's the logic of that? And it would seem as though it should be the other way around. And my sense is maybe it was intended to be the other way around and it just got confused.
Or it
Because
or
we-
it would be an SPR.
Yes, because that's the way it is on the others. It's SPR and then it goes to SP, except in Office Park and
Office Park is the
we
same
don't
situation.
we don't really care about Office Park, I don't think. But it seems to me that in the RVC, those designations should be flipped to the SP for tier 1 and no for tier 2. I mean, that's a
Angus.
question. I guess the question is
Angus, that's a
that
good
the
question.
intent?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would just add if we're thinking of doing special permit for the RVC, then it would make sense in other R and B areas as well. But we're talking when we're talking about standalone BESS, we're talking about a lot that is a parcel that is dedicated entirely to battery storage facility, and is not attached to a building or connected to the lot is being used, say, has a building currently on it, has a roof mounted solar, and then has a battery storage attached to it. We're talking about a parcel that is exclusively a battery storage facility, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
in this scenario, it appears that the smaller units we do not want to allow at all in the RVC, but we could allow a much larger one by special permit. Yeah, I think somebody make a recommendation, Bruce.
I'm thinking that as Angus mentioned, these are small contained, and it reminds me on Fearing Street, there's this brick building that's Verizon, which for all intents and purposes could be a BESS. But there it sits. It doesn't look terrible. Maybe people have driven by it many times and not noticed it. So the question is, why are we, because locating these near load centers, which is closer to the center of town, would seem to be something that would be logically appropriate. And it's too bad Fred's not here because he could speak more technically to this, but it would seem to me that these small storages would be most especially valuable in near the center of town. So that, I guess, is a question. Would these not be more, should we not value the center of town locations for these, given that they are near the load centers?
Angus.
Well, it just kind of makes me think, Bruce, that maybe part of that special permit being there for RVC is trying to say, yes, we would like to incentivize battery storage, but only if it's storing an enormous amount of energy. That there's no point in storing small amounts of electricity on a bunch of different lots close into town, but it might make more sense in clusters of population to have larger battery storage systems, which is kind of different than how we think about zoning for a lot of other kinds of industrial uses. And so maybe the SP actually could make sense for RVC and actually could make sense for RG, RF for some of these other categories as well, because if we're going to dedicate a parcel exclusively to battery storage near population centers, we should try and maximize what we're getting out of the use of that parcel for battery storage.
I know that Fred is still with us. Fred, have you? It looks like maybe he's frozen. All right, never mind, I guess.
I'm going to respond to Angus's comment, and I'm putting a different hat on, and that is that the larger the BESS, unfortunately, the greater the risk of whatever it is, whether it's explosion or fire or something like that. That I don't think we have any power hookups in the center of town, except maybe the limited business down on Route 9, near what used to be Amherst Media. So you want your best, I would think you would want your best in a location where you can, feed into the grid with it. So in that sense, I still don't understand why one would be an N and one would be SP to allow a larger, potentially more dangerous unit.
Well, should we just
Jennifer,
should we just change the two N's to SPR or SP at least? In tier 1 and
yeah,
call it a day?
Jennifer,
Yeah, I would agree with what Doug just said to have it. And I would think like in a residential area, which the RG is, you would want a special permit. You certainly would want a butter notification and not, because the N, I'm assuming, is just that you don't
No.
allow it. Okay. Not that it would, I think if it's going to be allowed, it should be by special permit.
In the RVC or in the RG?
In the RG, or we won't allow it at all.
Yeah.
Okay.
So so the RG we haven't really talked about yet. The RVC, are we okay with an SPR on that?
we're talking the small units. Bruce, sorry, I'm looking at the numbers, not at the hands.
I'm just concerned that we don't know enough about what we're talking about to be making these. So it seems to me that we should just make sure that however this table was filled out, it was done by someone who knew a lot more about these things than we do. Because I feel kind of hopeless trying to figure this, particularly as you mentioned, Pam, there's the risks and so forth. I mean, I made my comment about Verizon. Well, I don't think Verizon's going to blow up, but you're right. These things are essentially energy dense things. They're storing energy, and basically that's what a bomb is. So someone's going to come along and say, you're letting us put bombs in the center of town. And there may be logic to it, but there may not be. I don't think we know enough. So I think we have to just make sure that however this is filled out, it's done with maybe somebody can write a short statement about why it is that it should, why it should be as shown, or however it's decided to be shown by staff, what the rationale is, because I just don't know enough to really have a useful opinion anymore, I don't think.
Thank you, Stephanie. And then Jennifer.
So looking at the state's draft bylaw chart, they have more allowances for site plan review and special permit, whereas we just have no's identified. Staff, the building commissioner and Nate Malloy were the ones who initially looked at this more carefully and revised this table. So this version, I believe that you're looking at, is the one that Rob Mora and Nate had recommended.
And do they know more than us?
I would say Rob certainly has a vast amount of experience in building construction, and I think they work daily with the regulations. So I would say, I would just offer that. I'm not going to say saying that it's more or less. I just know that with their experience in working with these things regularly, these were their recommendations. So you can change them as you see fit. I'm just letting you know that's where they came from, because there was a question about that.
Yes.
I'm just responding.
Thank you. Yeah. Jennifer, then Andy, and then I had a thought.
Yeah, I'm just echoing Bruce. I don't know that, we have the knowledge to really weigh in. So I guess I maybe would defer to Rob and Nate. I just don't feel like I really have the knowledge to suggest changes. That's just why I haven't weighed in a lot during the conversation. I don't know how, I just don't have the expertise. I don't know that we do. And I feel like this is really important because there's been a lot of issues with the battery storage units. So I'd hate to make changes that are not fully informed.
Thank you. Andy?
Yeah, I guess I'd like to at least find out the answer to the question about why there's an N in tier 1 and an SP in tier 2 from the folks from I guess Rob now. Just have them look at that again. And then if the state is more lenient on these things, I don't know, why did we decide to be just prohibitive on some of the things that they're saying should be special permit or whatever. I'm not, I don't know what the rationale is, but certainly the initial question about why do we have a stricter prohibition on tier 1 than tier 2 in the RVC and the OP would be worth directing their attention to. And then the general question of why have we gotten more specific or more stringent than the state.
So let's plan to do that. I will write that up as one of the questions. And if we could put a question mark there by the SP that was just added, or no, that one was fine, I think. Under office park, I guess it's the same question. Why would you have a no for a smaller unit and a yes for, or at least a pathway for a larger unit?
All right.
Yeah. Yes, perfect. Thank you. And I'm trying to read it from the perspective of what are we trying with that designation? What are we trying to encourage? Are we trying to encourage use of RVC for, larger units? And it could be that the RVC in fact is near the power grid because it's sort of down in that area around Route 9. And, maybe that was the thinking that when the planners were putting that information together. Andy?
Yeah, I'm sorry to ask this, but I'm new to this this year. So how do you have a standalone BESS? Where does the energy come from as opposed to one that's co-located with photovoltaic installations?
It's constructed. I mean, it gets a feed from the grid, the overhead power lines, and it is filled with power, during cheap energy times, and then they release that power and sell it when price goes up. Whereas if it's not fed by a solar field. The ones that are co-located are filled and charged with the SPI that they're sitting next to. The other ones are what's the trading,
Triage. It's
a
triage on energy rates.
It's a demand side management.
Yeah.
Okay, but it involves renewable energy somehow. I mean, this is
Not necessarily. No, it literally stores energy when it's cheap and they sell it off for a margin of a profit when it's more expensive.
I guess I'm just wondering why it's in the clean energy bylaw if it's not necessarily clean energy.
Angus has the answer.
I don't know if I have the answer. I mean, it doesn't have to be related to clean energy, but I think generally, if we're trying to use renewable sources that are intermittent, then we need to drastically increase battery storage. And so the times, if you increase solar capacity enough, then energy is going to become cheaper at times when the sun is shining and you'll fill the BESS with primarily renewable energy. But you could do this with a coal power plant and it would work just fine.
Thank you.
I feel like we have made our way through. We've raised questions, and we have made some suggestions. How about we move to the next table? And it was suggested that in fact, this is an addition to Article 5 accessory uses. So with this frame of mind, this is any SPI or BES that is secondary to a primary or principal use on a property. So with that in mind, we have tier 1, which is the SPI that is, again, building mounted, canopy or ground mounted, under 25 kilowatts, and or BES under 100 kilowatts. So these are small, these are very small. We had a discussion, Johanna brought it up, and she said, I think we need to clarify what's not included, what's less than 25. And I think we had the conversation that should we specify, or can Rob Mora tell us better, what he's willing to permit as of right? Is it, we've talked about having a statement that this bylaw does not apply to plug in, the small kinds of batteries. Bruce.
25 kilowatts is a pretty hefty system. I mean, unless you have a house that's, oh golly, I'm just guessing a bit now, but let's say somewhere in excess of 5,000 square feet, maybe even 10,000 square feet, then you would have a roof that would maybe could support a larger system than that, and for some reason. But this is the size of a system that can render even a large home net zero, as well as basically providing the energy for a couple of vehicles. So that seems to be the intent here, and I think that 25 kilowatts seems to be reasonable for that for that purpose.
And it's all by yes across the board for every district. Any comments about that? Doug?
Well, I thought the conversation we had before was not about the maximum, the 25 kilowatts. It was about the minimum. And Johanna had cited the plug-in solar voltaic panels that you can buy and just plug into a 120 volt outlet, which are only have a few hundred kilowatts. And would they be subject to this? And then there's the solar panels that feed the crosswalks that are around town. Are they subject to this? So I think that was more the conversation about, is there some minimum below which we don't want to have to get into a whole permit protocol?
But if I may, Doug, doesn't yes across the board basically avoid having to get into any permit protocols?
Well, you've still got to apply, put in an application to the building commissioner.
For a building permit.
Right. So, I mean, I think that was the conversation. I'm not sure where it should go, but
yes. Well, I
So
thought
one of the suggestions was, and this would jump us all the way back to the very beginning, but I'll just read it out loud. But this is a statement that would be that I'm going to suggest that we add to the very first section of 1802 applicability with the sentence that says this does not apply to building integrated BES or consumer grade plug-in systems, SPI. And that is trying to address that this whole bylaw does not apply to that level of equipment. And that's where we really want Rob to be able to weigh in and say, tell us, tell us what you don't want to have to administer, essentially. Bruce?
I think that's the way to do it and not trying to have a table for it.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, good. Okay, so this is an administrative yes. These are all, again, accessory uses. For tier 2, which is solar photovoltaic system, building mounted, canopy or ground mounted, greater than 25 kilowatts, but up to 250 kilowatts and or BESS at 1,000 kilowatts. There is administrative approval needed in RO, RLD, and resident neighborhood residents. Then in other zones, it is not approved, except when you get to business village center, business neighborhood, commercial, maybe office park, light industry, PRP, and again, FPC, which we could talk about. And that's by the permit granting authority for the principal use of what's coming before those boards. Any comments?
I guess I've been puzzled why we have the no's across the in those zones and why we're not at least allowing it under the permit granting authority.
What are we trying to discourage here by doing this? Somebody's trying to discourage larger systems that are accessory to the principal use.
Yeah,
And if you're getting
I'm not
up,
sure why we want to discourage that, I guess is where I'm coming from.
maybe Bruce's conversation about the size of parcel required to meet some of those numbers is
No,
more than we want in a residential district, because we would rather have housing. I don't know.
well,
Bruce?
I agree with Doug. Because this is accessory to something else, you've got a principal use and then a regulatory process associated with that. So I would think it would be quite logical to have no no's here, because we're only talking accessory uses, and of course this is a fairly large one. So here it might be, for example, that what's happening here is you've got a very large house, and somebody, I don't know, for some reason or other, they might be wanting to use very inefficient. No, the size would be there. I think that Doug's right. I would support the amendment that extended by permitting granting authority for principal use all the way across to the RN, which is a yes. It makes sense to me. I think we entrust the permit granting authority, and then they can figure out whether it's a no or not. We don't tell them what it has to be.
SPR would not be a no. There would be no associated with SPR.
Well, where it says by permitting grant, it's by permit granting authority. So wouldn't we just extend that regulatory control to BL, BG, RF, and RG and RVC? I mean, that seems to be
Angus.
logical.
Can I just ask what the by permit granting, this is a clarification, by permit granting authority for principal use, what does the for principal use mean?
It means the primary use. If you go to the use table, which is table 3 in the bylaw, it lists hundreds of primary uses across town, things that are allowed or not allowed in every district. And so it could be residential, it could be, mechanic shop, whatever that use is.
Oh, I'm sorry. So it's not saying that the principal use of whatever the parcel is would be solar. It's still accessory. This is still accessory uses for solar.
This whole table is accessory only, correct?
Oops.
Great.
Well,
Okay.
and what struck me is that for tier 3, which is even bigger, it's by permit granting authority for the principal use across the board, which seems to me, certainly more flexible than the no's for tier 2, which are smaller. So that confused me.
I would agree with Bruce and extend that in tier 2.
Great.
Doug,
That's fine, Bruce. You can take credit for it.
Great. Thank you, Walker. Good. So we will, again, we will send this all to KP Law. They are also not solar experts, I will say, but they will hopefully be looking at this from the legal perspective of, you know, how do we stack up and can we administer this fairly and equitably, you know, across town? Okay. You all did really well. That was good. We have section 6.2, which is fences. And it just simply tells us that this section doesn't apply to fencing that encloses SPI or BES. In this document, in Article 18, we do cover fences, and that's where we describe what's required and what's allowed. But we'll add this wording to section 6.2. Definitions, we talked a little bit about, we already have the comment in there that a minimum size should be specified for BES and also for SPI for definitions. So when we go to, we may want to borrow some of that wording of this is, you know, permanently connected, whatever.
Non-consumer
Yeah.
or
Commercial grade, yeah. Any comments that people had on definitions?
Well, for the ground-mounted SPI, if we're going to change the upper limit of tier 2 to 2,500, we should change the 1,000 that's listed here.
Good catch.
However, in the spirit of only saying things once and not have to chase them all over a document, you might consider changing this to just say something like the sizes are as defined in section 18. Or in the table or whatever, table 3 or wherever else we had it.
Same for the standalone BES.
Yeah. Of course, we didn't talk about changing those either.
And that way, if we change the table and or the description, it will, well, this is the description, but we don't, you're right, we don't have to say it twice.
Only have to do it once.
I love it.
Pam, I think you're trying to make the same comment that you've made for 12 for ground mounted for the standalone BES. In other words,
Yes.
yes.
Yes. Great. Thank you, Walker. Super. So, we got through it, everybody. Bruce.
Where do we stand with the setback of arrays from private wells? Remember,
We
I
need-
was, I contested that it needed to be 250 feet. I asserted that it needed to be closer to 0. And then we had the white paper that was circulated, and I read that white paper, and fundamentally it seemed to agree with what I was saying, except that the concerns seemed to be with stormwater management, which is right there at 1812. And so I thought, well, let's deal with it in 1812 where it already is, and not try and deal with it differently by putting a 250 setback.
But so that you got ahead of me. I was going
Uh,
to go back through the document and just say, this is
Oh, I'm
where
sorry.
that's okay, that's okay. We'll just, this jumps around a little bit, but we did in fact talk about setbacks.
Well, we had it in our packet, we had a separate document that was June 12th staff comments,
Yep.
which had some of Mandy Jo's annotations of the document of section 18, starting as 1808. And it went through a whole bunch of, or several different things that we had left unresolved.
Correct.
Pam, why don't you just go through it the way you intended? I'm sorry, I just
That's okay. That's okay. There's no, it's Stephanie. I'll get my thoughts together while she talks.
Thanks, Pam. I just wanted to summarize for people that staff comment sheet is in direct response to an email from Pam to staff about the outstanding issues. So it was basically a summary of all the comments that had been drafted and then organized so that staff could respond to them directly. So I just wanted to sort of reiterate that that's where that came from and why they're sort of organized the way they are. And I apologize because nobody gave me a consistent format in how they responded. So I did my best to get them on one document.
Yes. So maybe it does make sense to, since this was literally started out anyway, is in the order from the document, you know, where the questions were being raised. And we can try to address it that way. So starting it back at the beginning on page 1, so first of all, want to acknowledge that the area highlighted in pink are all of the this and this and this section apply, this and this and this sections do not apply. And I think one of the things that once we are finished working through the documents, all of these, all of the numbers, all of the sections will get arranged in perhaps a more orderly manner. And therefore, this pink section would change. We also would like to organize it in a way that we could say all projects that come before, you know, that utilize this article are apply to, you know, items, sections 1 through 20, sections 21 through 30, let's say, only apply to the following, so that it's really clear who does or doesn't have to look at additional sections. That was kind of not clear, I'm sure.
Pam, do you think that's going to happen in the rejiggering that Mandy does tomorrow?
No.
For KP Law?
No. I don't think, well, I can talk with her. I'm not sure that's a lot of work.
Well, it has to happen at some point.
It does have to happen at some point. I can ask her if it's something, you know, what's hard is that you would see for your July 1 meeting, you would see a brand new document. It would look so different you wouldn't be able to say, well, we had questions on section 1803. Where did that go? So trying to keep it recognizable. Fred,
Fred, I think, say something else. I think we heard you.
maybe he was cursing.
I don't know. All right.
I don't know. So starting at the top.
So are we going through Stephanie's document, or are we just going through the bylaw and referring to Stephanie's document?
I was gonna go through the bylaw
Okay, all right.
if I can
I'll keep them
track it
both in front of
properly.
me then.
Okay, yeah. Section 18.02, applicability. This is where the exemption statement might work, and I'm going to read it off so Walker could add it in as a comment for us, and it could come right after the pink section. And that is a sentence that says, does not apply, this article does not apply to building integrated BESS or consumer grade plug-in systems comma modular SPI, and we can work on the wording later. But that's the intent of, you know, if you're talking small battery pack, this does not apply. Yeah, it's hard to go from one document to the other. Sorry, folks. In one of the comments, it's the hearing, for the hearing, do the minimization and mitigation need to be defined? And the answer is yes. Minimization and mitigation do need to be defined. And Aaron Jacques provided us that information and that definition. Great. Yeah, I think that's all we can do. I don't want to type it out here. Great. So once we have inserted something like this or resolved it, is it possible to go back and delete that question so that we can, yes, thank you. Great. Okay. Sorry, it is difficult to jump back and forth. Section 180804. And I'm sure there's some that we're missing here, but we'll.
It was just
Okay.
subparagraph M was the next one, right?
Yes. Well, actually, yes. Yes, thank you. Proof of liability insurance. And the building commissioner does say this makes much more sense to include in what the number is 18.21, 1821. And so all we would say is the owner or operator of the project shall provide the building commissioner with a certificate of insurance showing the property has sufficient liability, and that short sentence, 3-line sentence, gets cut out of here and put into
I
18.
thought, at the last page, second to last page of Stephanie's document, I thought he thought it made more sense as a in the surety section.
Right, which is 18.21, 1821.
Yeah, so requiring the insurance at the time of application is unnecessary.
Right. Right, and it can get just put in right there at the last, yep. Right there.
Yeah.
Brad, I think we can hear you.
Great. Okay,
Are we deleting that prior to construction bit then?
yes,
In the where we just
in that paragraph that we just moved over.
yeah.
Sorry, what am I deleting?
There was a whole paragraph in surety or whatever it was that
Oh,
that talked about prior to construction that they would need to do that. Where you just pasted it.
so just
So-
delete all this.
Right? I mean, I think this was
That's a surety. A surety is different than proof of liability insurance.
okay. So we're just leaving that and we're just adding this. Okay.
Yeah, we're just adding that. It doesn't have to be, yeah. We'll get rid of the A. Right. So back to 1808, 04.
Oh, 06. Oh,
D, letter D. So these are all plans that are being required. Item number 5 says stormwater management plan. And what we heard from staff is that they actually need an EPA stormwater, it's a SWPPP, stormwater prevention and protection plan. So we would, yep. So
Great.
it's actually PP.
Stormwater. I don't remember what the acronym is.
That's fine. They're 3 Ps.
Okay.
Perfect. Stormwater management plan and stormwater and soil management plan. Sorry. Yeah. And that
then
comes, that soil
erase that.
management.
And then erase the rest of that.
No,
No,
that
keep
can
it-
stay. But we want to bring over letter R. So it's just a little bit farther down. The soil management portion of this. I guess it's not, yeah. So we want to include item number 1, 2, and 3, and that goes over to
Right.
the one we just did. and
That's
we'll do the
confusing.
wording. We'll take care of the wording afterwards. So, yeah, I think that the lettering just got messed up, but that's okay. We'll figure it out. Scroll down a little bit farther to S, and we all agreed that we did not need the following in red. So I think Erin had a comment that said, you know, all of this would need specific criteria to make here, would need specific criteria. Somebody would need to develop the criteria. And in fact, I think this whole section T ends up being covered as part of the site suitability scoring process that happens before an application is even submitted to the town. So this is good. We do not need to repeat it here. So that's resolved. Perfect.
Sorry, Pam, can I just jump in real quick?
Yep.
Just in relation to T, I think what Erin was saying, and I'm sorry if you were speaking, my dog was barking and I couldn't hear you. Her recommended language, and I don't know if you were going to include it, was just say at the discretion of the PGA, the following impact assessments may be required. So instead of deleting them entirely, you want to say that the PGA may require any of those, like 1 through 6 under T. That's what she was recommending.
Okay.
I think because she had wanted, I mean, at first she was sort of advocating for saying that, you know, there'd be a reason to include these, but I was, in our discussion, I was saying that was really cumbersome. And so that's why her language was suggesting that they may be required.
Well, so how can you have something that may be required when you're trying to get a consolidated permit?
And you don't have any criteria for whatever it is.
I think she
That
was
just-
saying at the discretion of the PGA, they may require any of these things.
But then they may require them on the based on what criteria? It's
I mean,
Very vague.
it's troublesome.
okay. I'm just relaying what she
Yep.
recommended. I have advocated to remove them myself personally.
I'm
so-
unconvinced.
Okay, that's fine. I just wanted to make sure that I was clear about what she was recommending.
Thank you. And I think it seems, and she may not be as familiar, she may not be familiar with the fact that all of that pre-filing in fact requires people to do these. This is where the list came from. It came from the state list. And it will be covered in the pre-filing application. Does anybody feel strongly about keeping this? Yeah, I'm not seeing any heads. So maybe we just make a note and just say, you know, this is covered in the site suitability scoring process. Because 2 sections later, it says any section of this may be waived or modified by the PGA for compelling reasons.
Mhm.
Okay. Under 180901, we did some work on this, but we also wanted to, I think the discussion was that in 1809-0101, in the pink paragraph, we can get rid of pursuant to 310 CMR 22 and just simply start with solar photovoltaic installations are prohibited in zone 1 areas unless permitted under provisions of blah, blah, blah. and then we add the word drinking water to 310 CMR 22, so people know either, probably the first reference to it. Right.
Green.
It's
Yeah.
the second reference, actually.
Yeah. It should be the first one is up 2 lines farther up. At the end. No.
Oh.
Just within that paragraph, it shows up. Yeah, there.
There it goes.
That's where it should be.
And there's an extra word there. You don't need the but.
Okay. Okay, we just did comment 3. Sorry, I'm keeping track of what we covered here. Comment 5. Okay, the section, again, I don't have the actual section in our bylaw, but this is the section on location, existence and location of private wells on adjacent properties.
So you're talking about 1809-0103? And the minimum
Yes.
disturbance area? That's
Yes. Yes.
That's where the
And so
comments-
the question was, how would we know that there is, how would we know that there's a well there? And the answer is that the Board of Health, Department of Health keeps track of that. So we can at least answer that question.
Mhm. And is this where we should start to talk about the
This
distances?
is exactly, now we're at Bruce's section here.
So, if I may, my argument is that the section on stormwater management and the disturbance, the concern is for how the ground might be eroded or something because of stormwater runoff. It's not a contamination concern. And aren't we doing a belt and braces thing here with belt and suspenders with we've already got the requirement for stormwater management in spades, and now we're asking. I mean, if the stormwater is properly managed, this setback or this no disturbance area shouldn't be necessary. And my concern is that when you start having these very large setbacks, or whatever they're called, separation distances, you can sterilize. It seems that there are unintended consequences when you have these kind of blinkered notions about putting big numbers in for separation distances without really doing the math about how much land you're sterilizing by doing that. And I think because we've got a pretty solid commitment or obligation to manage the stormwater, I think we should just let the stormwater management happen in the section where it's addressed and not try and do a double duty here.
Okay, so we just did some rearranging of stormwater management and soil management section. I'm going to read Erin Jacques' comment. And this is where she said, yeah, we have Board of Health maps and records for private wells. The applicant would need to seek out this information. Yes, for new wells proposed near SPIs, Board of Health should be informed of this regulation and enforce it as they review and approve well sites. I'm not sure if they have been consulted on this document. I would agree that, and then it goes to another page. that private wells are more vulnerable than public water supplies because once contaminated, they have no other viable drinking water source. And then she also says, I would argue, yes, solar panels can contaminate private wells. They contain heavy metals like lead, silver, cadmium, telluranium, copper, selenium, and PFAS, as well as chemical polymers that can be problematic if they enter surface or groundwater. This can happen anytime the panels are inadvertently damaged. And then finally, she says, from an equity standpoint, we should have the same setback for both public and private wells. This is a serious concern in environmental justice polygons in Amherst where there is no public water service and landowners or renters may not have resources or ability to remediate private well contamination.
So, if I can jump in, I noticed that the Water Supply Committee white paper also talked about some of these big setbacks and was recommending large setbacks. So that's another group that was advocating for some of this. Everything else we've heard is that the solar panels really are not a contamination source. And so I'm puzzled why why she's saying that. So I don't know that I know any better, but I know differently. I'll leave it at there. And Pam, I do see a couple hands.
Yep. Angus.
Yeah, I was just going to refer to the really helpful white paper as well, which indicates no issues with bleaching of materials. The only thing that they seem to think is worrisome is disturbance. Hence what the issue here. I guess the what I struggle to understand is we don't, as far as I understand it, we don't have these kinds of no disturbance requirements for any other kind of building, do we? I think for public wells we might, but for private wells we don't. Is that accurate?
Right. Yes.
So I guess I would not want to put that in place. If someone could clear cut their land and build any number of other structures on it within distance from private wells, it doesn't seem to me like we should only ban solar or BESS installations from doing that. So I would oppose these private well distances and potentially even reduce the public well distances, but I understand that they are a different thing than the private wells.
Bruce.
I have a lot of respect for Erin Jacques, but in this particular instance, I think she's flat out wrong. She's referring to contamination from PVs and so forth, and it's the white paper says, but it's not just the white paper; it's the whole industry. And as I said, the highest performing, most ecologically attuned buildings in the country are collecting their rainwater from PV arrays. So it's just nonsense. And I think, as Angus said, it's just nonsense. We shouldn't have this here. We should just get rid of it.
What are you suggesting that we
I think
include for
I agree with
setbacks?
Angus. If you can clear cut your area and build a bunch of houses and you don't have a 250-foot setback from no disturbance from a private well, a PV array is going to be a lighter, or most likely a lighter version of that. And the sense of contamination, which was the subject of Erin's concern with all of her things that come out of PV arrays and all this sort of stuff, is just rubbish. And so the basis for this requirement is inconsistent, as Angus has pointed out, and rubbish so far as contamination from PV arrays are concerned. So if the if the thing is here has been demonstrated to be A, inconsistent, and B, nonsense, I can't see there's a case for keeping it.
So I'm seeing ground disturbance. We've talked about ground disturbance, and contamination of public water supply can be surface runoff, sedimentation. Some really horrible examples happened in the hill towns where, you know, with all due respect to the project managers or whoever was doing it, they did not have safeguards in place for their stormwater management and their soil management. So
That's right, and
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 so
they were
the one
violating section 18, no whatever, 12.
right. So one of the white paper comments is that in fact it is typically the scale of ground clearing that really sets solar installations apart from your normal, you know, build a house and put some fill in the back to put grass in with.
Well, Pam, we've already got the 5-acre maximum disturbance criteria elsewhere in this, which I know Aaron commented that consistent with state and federal regulations of some sort. You know, we have other provisions that are trying to prevent the kinds of events that had happened in those hill towns.
Yes. Well, to back off from my strident position, which I think is defensible, that it should be eliminated, why don't we just make it 50 feet instead of 250 feet? And then the principal concern of unintended consequences of sterilizing from private wells goes away, because 50 feet is not going to make such a great difference that perhaps we need to go to the mat on. So keep it, but make it 50 feet and not 250 feet. And that probably applies to the next one as well. That
So
would be
number 010105 is talking about a no disturbance area of 200 feet from zones A and B of a public water supply. I don't feel confident in overriding what the Drinking Water Protection Group recommends for protection of public water supplies.
Yes, Aaron was saying that
This affects a whole lot of people, not just, you know, not just me.
Well, this just to 0103, take that 250 down to, because there are many more private wells, I imagine, than there are public wells, particularly in these outlying zones where these are likely to take place at scale. So I would argue for 50 feet rather than 250 feet on 09, 01, 03, and then I'll shut up.
Well, Bruce,
Okay.
the water supply memo requested a 100 for private wells.
Okay. It's rubbish, but let's
I know. I mean, we're just trying to work with everybody here.
Yeah.
Maybe we could
Yes.
make the note, let's add a note per drinking water protection recommendation.
Yeah,
And we,
I mean,
you know, we can come back to that if we need to. And Doug, while you're in there reading, what do they recommend for the public water supply well or public surface water supply?
so for public water supply, well, they would, I believe they would say 200 feet. But, well, they say the Mass DEP would require a minimum of 200 feet. However, that committee is recommending 400 feet. And then for zones A and B of a surface water drinking water source, they're recommending 200 feet.
So if we include 200 feet for both of those,
Yeah, so 05 is consistent with the Drinking Water Committee. And the way we've edited 03 is consistent with the private well recommendation. And then 200 for 04 would be either 200 or 400. You know, they're recommending 4, but sounds like the state's okay with 2. And I think the sense of at least a substantial portion, if not a majority of the planning board, is that we want the lower numbers.
Maybe Walker, could you put like the 200 in complete so it's easy to see 400 versus 200? Thanks. Thank you. Great. Appreciate that.
And Pam, Angus has his hand
Angus,
up.
yep, Angus, go ahead.
Sorry, it's just the last thing I'll say about 03. So I understand that the white paper notes that solar development is different from some other forms of development. But we have no requirements for any development happening with private wells currently. So this is exclusively going to limit development of solar panels along private wells. And unless the town has a plan to adopt other kinds of requirements on all other forms of development, including some development that is substantially worse for the land than solar photovoltaic installations, I would recommend not having any distance of any kind relating to private wells. And the white paper also noted that this is a very small amount of land in Amherst in the outlying areas where we are most likely to see this kind of development. So that's my final comment on it. Thanks.
Oh, let's make under Powell Walker per drinking water protection recommendation, we'll add that. You want to
Something
say
like this is a requirement that applies only to solar development and seems extreme when all other development would not have this limitation or something like that.
Uniquely perverse.
so it doesn't mean that it doesn't, I mean, if you really think about this, it doesn't mean that 100 feet from the property line there will be no disturbance, because somebody's well could be 200 feet from their, from the property line. So you would be clearing up to the edge of the solar property. We really don't know how badly this affects the developability of the land. Okay, let's move to Bess. Bess is, as people understand, a little bit different ball of wax. And we have essentially the same statement. If we could go to the 0202 and make the same kind of change with pursuant to 310 CMR drinking, and that just gets lifted, yes, that gets lifted out and Corinne's drinking water. Thank you. Perfect. Okay, now we can talk about the numbers. This is setbacks from best installations, front, side, and rear setbacks of 50 feet, measured from the property line.
What are the comments on the sheet that you are reading from, Doug, from staff? Or
Well, this memo, I'm having trouble finding anything. There is a section on battery energy storage systems. However, I don't see, let's see, oh, yes, maybe there is here. So let me, bear with me a moment here.
Yeah.
All right, well, I'm not seeing, they say no BESS units located within zone 1 for a public water supply, which apparently is a 400 feet.
I think that this is much less concerning because the BESS is a small micro fraction of the area that the arrays are taking. So you can simply design your site so that the BESS is not where is outside of this. So I really don't see the damage. I mean and that's number one. And number two is, as we've already confessed earlier in the evening, we really don't know as much about battery energy storage systems, or at least I don't. So I would just leave these alone and go with them, because I don't think they're going to be discouraging or frustrating or cause any real problem.
Because of the ability to locate BESS somewhere within the property to meet these expectations.
Correct. You have far greater flexibility, and you just say, okay, we'll move it away and we'll work here. End of story.
Angus.
Yeah, not to be a broken record, but I'd also recommend removing the private well requirement. And I had trouble finding in the white paper their recommendation on the private wells for BESS. But I think for the public sources of water, it makes sense.
Yeah, I guess I'll add the no disturbance for 04, the minimum no disturbance area of 600 feet. So that's the one that this white paper said should be at least 400 feet. And, 600 feet, that's 2 football fields, right? So that, if you're talking about an installation that's not a huge industrial, 20 acres, if it's only 5 acres, 600 feet could matter. But that's the one that I have a little trouble with.
Andy.
Yeah, I was going to make the same point. In fact, the same 2 football fields. I mean, it's a long distance. So even if you're trying to orient your property, your parcel, so that it's as far away as possible, that might be difficult.
Does 04 sort of duplicate 05? I don't know enough about what constitutes a zone A and B of a public water supply. But
those are surface water draws as opposed to public wells. I think.
Well, okay, yeah, okay.
So I'll point out that in 04 and 05, we're talking about no disturbance areas. So that doesn't mean you could put your BESS in the middle of your array, because that array is obviously a cleared and graded site. It's not a no disturbance area. I would envision that if you needed 600 feet from a well, from public well, that's that might in fact encroach heavily in the SPI layout.
Yeah.
Angus.
Well, I guess I just want to ask for clarification. With the photovoltaic installations, we're not worried about contaminants leaching from the installations themselves. We're worried about disturbance. And with BESS, it seems like it's the opposite. We're less worried with disturbance. It's a small installation that won't take up that much land. But we are worried that in the event of an emergency, something could leach from the system, because that has happened in more instances. So I guess I'm trying to understand why we're using the same no disturbance language for BESS when we should really be just banning BESS from within certain distances of the actual public water supplies.
Separation distance.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So do I.
So if we took out the word no disturbance area and said a minimum of 600 feet from a public well water supply shall be maintained.
Yeah, or a minimum separation distance of 600 feet.
Is that the same as a minimum distance?
Yeah, it just feels more legalese.
And why don't we go with 400 feet, which is the recommendation I thought from somebody.
Well, the white paper from the Drinking Water Committee recommended 400 feet from a public water supply. And their wording did not get into no disturbance. It was just making sure the device was that distance away.
Doug, are you okay getting rid of the word separation?
Sure.
And then 05, we have
Yeah, we do the same
the
thing.
same thing, minimum distance of. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Are people comfortable with this? Anybody? Angus, you got your hand up.
Yeah, just for 06, I'd if Walker could make a similar comment to the one that I made above for the photovoltaic, that it doesn't seem reasonable to require this of BESS when we don't require it of any other kind of development.
Well, it is an industrial toxic
Bomb.
item. Bomb, as somebody described it earlier. I am concerned about the health and welfare of people who live in this town who might end up with BESS next to them. And I would like to make sure that their water supply isn't damaged. Or the town would likely have to pay for water connection to those properties.
Yes, I don't support Angus's comment here, although I usually support Angus because he's a very thoughtful and rational human. But I don't support this one.
So Angus says it seems unreasonable. Okay, I think we hit that one. Did we do minimum disturbance or distance up in the 1809-0103? Is that we didn't take that approach, did we? Do people feel okay? This is the land
No,
clearing.
yes, because the array was a big area device. I mean, I think Angus hit the nail on the head when he said that the BESS is essentially a point source, whereas the arrays are broad area. So I think there's a consistency.
So does that mean keep the no disturbance area or change it to distance?
Well, no, this is the array, and we reduced the distance from 250 down to
Yeah,
100.
okay, good.
And we were okay
Just-
with the no disturbance.
Good, just checking. Yep. Great. Okay, I think we can move on. We have we had under 1810-04. I just wanted to confirm that we had a response back from Aaron Jacques that 5 acres is in fact the guideline and that number ought to hold. So we can accept that. Great. And I think we came to an understanding in 1810-06. This is talking about materials. And we used the wording with some help from Johanna. I think that all solar photovoltaic panels installed in SPIs shall not release PFAS into the environment. And my reference to fencing is under 181008. It's that last paragraph, and I just wanted to point out that instead of changing 6.2 fencing section, we're covering fencing here under clean energy.
So this is, you're referring to 181008, right?
Yes.
Well, would it makes, so we're considering fencing to be screening?
We
The
could-
title
we
of
could
this
have-
section, this section does not talk, like if I'm just scanning through section 18 to try to find where I've been sent from Article 6, and I see the heading that says screening and planting, it doesn't say fencing. So I would pass right by this.
And let's make a new section heading then, 18. We can either add it to the end.
Well,
After
if the
after
text- so
signage.
is there text that you wanted to add here? Or is the text that's already here?
It's the text that's already here. I just wanted to point out that we have the text relative to fencing. So
So all we
Um,
need to do is change the title to screening, fencing, and planting or something.
okay, yep, that sounds good. Thank you.
Okay.
Great. The comment I'm just going through the list of what was talked about. 1811-0103, there was a request for the word product versus components, and it was noted from the fire department that product is fine. So we can
Strike that off.
write that off, exactly. Product is okay. Now, 1811-0107, we now get into, again, we had a staff, the Amherst Fire Department, and they were comfortable with item A, which says, remember the discussion, do we need, there's water and then there's other means of fire suppression. And the comment was that under A, NFPA 855 recommended use of water, etc., unless alternative fire protection strategies or agents are proven effective. And the comment from fire department was that sentence says it all, that phrase says it all, it's fine. So we're okay with that section. Under 1811-0109, we now have some wording that, oh, Jesse.
Thanks. Apologies for sidestepping the conversation. I'm looking at the attendees, and I suspect there's people waiting for the historic district discussion.
Ooh.
Are we going to get to that tonight, Doug, or should we maybe postpone that? They've been waiting probably for a couple of hours.
Yeah, I think it's going to be just how late does this committee want to go? I think we've probably got another 15 or 20 minutes, and if we wanted to start that tonight, we could, but we're not going to.
That's what I'm asking. If you think we're going to postpone it, and then
yeah. So members of the public, if you're here for the historic district conversation, we're probably not going to talk about that tonight. We'll postpone it to a later meeting.
thanks.
All right.
My apologies, I didn't realize there was another agenda item.
Oh yeah, we were ambitious, Pam. But go ahead.
Okay. 1811-01, I'm sure they've had a thrilling evening.
Yeah.
1811-0109, fire department comes back and adds a sentence following that highlighted section. If, and it says, if PFAS, fire suppression foams, are indicated in the system design, comma, the foam shall be supplied by the applicant in accordance with Amherst Fire Department specifications.
Pam, you passed over 08. And there was a comment, at least, from the fire department.
On 0108,
Yeah,
I didn't see that.
in my handout.
Okay, okay, but let's, in this case, can we just get rid of this now? Our comment resolved. Thank you. Okay, you think you had something? I don't have any marks at all under
Well,
0108.
I mean, I guess it was Stephanie's document. Under 08, there was red text after the text here that said NFPA 70 is the electric code, and we would defer this to Todd. I'm not sure who Todd is. At the same time, we appreciate the weatherproofing of electrical components and marking and labeling. So I think if there was I guess I don't see a comment, but somehow somebody thought we needed to. Okay, so it looks like they were fine with it, so.
I think they're fine with it. Yeah, looks like
Okay.
they appreciate what we have in here.
Okay,
Okay, yeah, working backwards. So I did skip over some of the other ones. 18110107. Oh, we already talked about that.
yeah, that's the only one I think that
Okay,
I
okay, good,
thought was
thank you.
passed.
I'm feeling like we have gotten through most of those comments. Let's see if there's anything else. Under 18.19.013, there was a question, who decides if this is applicable? And the answer is wetland administrator. In section 18.21, we added
Pam,
the
if I
proof
could
of
just
what?
interrupt, where you have if applicable and we ask the question, should you put in the text if deemed applicable by the wetlands administrator? Then it's clear who the applicant has to seek advice from. Could we put where it says if applicable or if deemed applicable by the wetlands administrator? Is that the phrase?
Well,
Then-
if I read the above though, it lists fire department, building commissioner, board of health, and Concom.
You think they'll figure it out?
So yeah, I think they'll figure
Okay,
it
I
out.
got you. Yeah, good.
Yeah, they're
Well,
gonna come to it.
well, Pam and Bruce, it's quite possible that I made this comment. I don't know if it's true or not, but the question is, who decides if they need to submit the reports to those three entities?
It's standard practice.
I think it would be a
Particular-
condition of their SWIP or their order of conditions.
Okay, all right, I'll drop it. I think my confusion about this kind of thing is who's making the call about whether you need to do something. And that's before you've submitted the reports. It's like, do you need to create the reports? So I guess when we get one of these, we'll see whether all the lines of authority are clear.
Well, I think if you were to ask, Stephanie's on here still, but it doesn't go to Stephanie anymore, but if you think about Hickory Ridge, there are reports coming in, there are especially reports after heavy rain events. And, they all are making sure that the whole application and the conditions on the ground still meet the stormwater prevention pollution plan.
But I mean, I hate to belabor this, but who decided that the reports needed to continue to be submitted?
Typically, it's part of the plan that's administered by the conservation agent.
Yeah.
So the
Okay.
conservation agent is the one who determines that reports should be sent in and for how long.
Okay,
So I said wetland administrator should be conservation. Yeah, thank you. That ends the list of, I think, comments and feedback from town staff. Somebody tell me that I'm wrong. But I believe we hit all of those. So do you want to have a short conversation about next steps? Since it's 9
Sure.
o'clock.
sure.
Bruce,
I'm just wondering whether this would be a time for any public comment. Haven't looked
Yeah,
in the
we still-
attendees, but
Yeah, we still have one member, and I think he's here for this conversation. Member of the public. Pam, is it all right to bring over Steve Ruth?
oh yeah, absolutely. It is a public hearing after all.
Yeah, so Pam, Field Sadler, can you bring over Steve?
Here I am, believe.
Yes, welcome,
This is
Steve.
this is Steve Roof. I live in deep South Amherst. Again, wonderful job you guys are doing, really going over this in detail. I had on my list of concerns back in section 1810-04 under the land clearing and soil erosion. There's a paragraph there about groundwater monitoring wells that, to my reading, it seems to establish a no disturbance zone of 100 feet around groundwater monitoring wells. And I question whether that's needed at all. You had a discussion earlier about buffer or no disturbance zones for groundwater supply wells. I think groundwater monitoring wells are even less needing of protection. So you might consider if that paragraph is necessary. And then the paragraph right afterwards about topsoil shall not be imported. I wonder if that's a requirement for other types of development. And whether or not, second issue is whether or not the town of Amherst Department of Public Works has any criteria for approving imports of soil. So those two, I guess, yeah, both of them might fall under are these requirements of other sorts of developments, or is it specific to solar? And also whether either is necessary. So,
Thank you, Steve.
all right, that's it for me. Thank you.
So that first paragraph, we had noted as a comment, and then it looked like Stephanie, you maybe responded to that. I see your hand up.
I just had a response regarding the distance from groundwater monitoring wells. Only that I know that there's been concern from DPW that when there's clearing, they sometimes get damaged. So maybe, I don't know that you want to eliminate a distance completely, but you might want to reduce it.
Would 50 feet, I mean, 50 feet, and what you're talking about is if you get trucks and equipment in within 50 feet of a wellhead, it's really likely somebody will run over it.
They could damage it, correct.
Yeah.
So the
Yeah,
idea
I
was
mean-
more to protect them from damage from equipment.
Yeah, what about language like that just says, you know, groundwater monitoring wells shall be protected from disturbance or damage, period. Just damage,
From
period.
from construction activities.
It's not just
Well,
construction activities. You want to keep them when the thing is operating as well.
Well, this is in the section on land clearing and soil erosion, so
Okay, got it.
as a part of design requirements. So I assume you'd have a civil drawing that shows the ground monitoring well, and then shows some sort of protection around it for the contractor to install.
Yeah.
And then as far as topsoil is considered, I can't think of whether there's any other sections of the bylaw that talk about that. Does anybody else? know?
I know that it's required in projects within wetland resource areas. I think the hope is to prevent someone from bringing in fill that contains contaminants or trash or something from somewhere. Usually, in a construction project, you would submit a sample or a spec sheet about what kind of topsoil you are submitting and what the makeup of it is and where you're getting it from. I think that's pretty typical in construction projects. So I don't think this is particularly out of the ordinary.
not onerous.
Yeah, I'm okay with leaving it.
Angus,
Yeah, sorry, two quick questions. One, what does imported mean? Does it mean that it doesn't come from the site?
Yeah,
correct.
So it could come from a parcel, from the next parcel over, and it would still be considered imported?
imported, yeah.
Okay. And I guess the other question I have is, do we currently, Walker, you're saying we currently require this of all projects?
If you're
All
going to
developments?
import topsoil, you're going to be supplying the town or the engineer with a spec sheet showing where this topsoil is coming from and what it's made of. So you're not importing trash or fill that's just, refuse.
Okay. And the town has to give approval,
Yeah.
otherwise the project can't go forward.
Yeah, that's one of the, because, you want it to be topsoil that things are going to grow in. You want it to be topsoil that's free of contaminants. You don't want someone to be putting gravel or sand or something down.
Yeah, no, the justification makes sense. I just want to make sure that we're not
Yeah.
putting additional regulations that aren't required for
Yeah,
other
no, I think
developments.
this is
Thank you for
pretty standard.
clarifying.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So I think that actually addresses Mr. Roof's comment then. Okay. Good. So next steps. The CRC, like I said earlier, the CRC is not going to close its hearing until you folks do. Oh, it's nice to see everybody's face with all the now I can see. So that I think maybe planning board might want to have a short conversation about that. The CRC has a meeting on Thursday, the 25th, and this is a topic for discussion. I think if we probably need to vote tonight for the CRC to continue this hearing to our next meeting, which is June 25. And at that point, we actually may continue it again till July because we will all be waiting for feedback from KP Law, hopefully by the 10th of July.
Yeah, I expect we'll do the same thing. We're going to continue tonight to July 1st, and then we'll continue to July 15th.
I had on my calendar, I jotted down joint with the planning board. Is that, I don't know that we need to do
Which
that.
date? Which date, Pam?
I'm sorry, July 15.
Well, we'll be meeting, and if you want
We'll
to
be
stop
meeting.
in. I mean, I
We have
think
nothing else to do that night.
right. I mean, it'll be the first time we see KP Law's
Yeah.
comments. And
Yeah.
if you want to be together when we talk about that or apart, you know, I think we could probably go either way. I hope we
So-
have at least a short conversation about it on the first, that sort of just among us planning board members, just to see if everybody's comfortable with,
Yep.
you know, going forward with what we think we're doing. And then hopefully we can recommend I thought our recommendation was to council.
It is.
It's not to CRC. Okay.
It's not just
Yeah,
CRC.
so I thought, you know, the 15th, we ought to be able to do that,
Okay, okay.
unless
So,
KP Law
so
blows
actually,
everything up.
given, I think I need Mandy Joe here tonight. I think if the CRC continues this hearing to the 23rd, that would be for us really the last date that we could close public hearing, or, you know, absorb the information from KP Law, discuss it, hopefully close the hearing and vote. But we don't really want to close our hearing until you folks do, because we're the ones that start the clock for everything else.
Okay.
So
Well, I
do
mean, are you asking for a promise that we're going to close on the 15th of
No.
July, or are you
No.
just,
no,
because, you know,
but maybe if you took a vote to continue it to the 1st or the 15th, first, I guess. And then the CRC might also take a vote to continue it to the 23rd, so that we also get a chance to see the KP Law comments.
mhm. So you're ready for us to close the hearing and go ahead? You're done talking about next steps?
You don't have to close the hearing, but just continue. I thought you were
Right.
going to continue it.
Right. Okay.
I think he meant say goodbye to us.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I'm fine with doing that. So I move that we continue this hearing, the planning board hearing, to July 1st. Pam Field Sadler, is there any reason not to do it at 6:35 p.m.?
Yes, there is. You actually have an application site plan review public hearing that's at 6:35.
All right, so 6:45 p.m. And so that's a motion. Does anybody want to second that? Bruce just raised his hand to second it.
Yep.
Planning board members, any further discussion? No? All right, we'll vote. Bruce, starting with you to continue.
Yes.
And let's see, is Fred still with us? We have lost Fred, okay. Angus,
Aye.
Jesse,
Aye.
Jara,
Aye.
and I'm an aye as well, 5 in favor, 2 absent, so motion carries. We are continued to July 1st.
Great. And I think I'll make a motion that the CRC continue its hearing to, I think it's July 23. I think that's legit. Okay, let's go to
Second.
23rd. And there are three of us here, so Jennifer,
Yes.
Andy,
Yes.
and Pam is a yes. I'm looking quickly just to make sure our other member is not here. Okay, so we also will continue our hearing to the 23rd, July 23. And we thank you again and again for your time. And I really want to say thanks to the CRC members who have been doing double duty,
Yeah,
multiple meetings.
thank you very much for all of your service and joining us.
Thank you. And
Thank you.
to Stephanie. Appreciate it. And Walker, where did Walker go? So if Walker could forward that document to me, to Stephanie, and we will get that documented as tonight's discussion, and it will go in the packet for, it's gonna get cleaned up with all those little additions taken out, or edits, I mean, taken out. The remaining questions will be there, and that document will be available for you all. And it will also go to KP Law. Thanks. Good night, everybody.
Good night, CRC. Planning Board, we have at least one more thing we need to do tonight. So Pam Field Sadler, why
Yes,
don't we jump to the
the A&R.
A&R that we wanted to do tonight?
Okay,
So this is
bring it
item
up.
7, Form A&R subdivision applications. Can you bring it up?
Mhm.
And this was the properties on Pelham Road, right?
Yes, it is.
All right.
So here it is. Walker, do you want to talk about this?
Sure, give me 2 seconds. Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. The lot, what they have labeled as lot 3 used to extend back behind lot 1 and lot 2. And they are just extending the side lot lines straight back so that each of the lots is fairly close to the same size. To give lot 1 and 2 larger lots, and lot 3 is getting smaller. They are all non-conforming as far as frontage, but this is not making them less non-conforming, so that's not an issue here. And as far as, you know, lot size, we're not making anybody less non-conforming as far as lot size. So it's pretty straightforward. There should be no reason not to approve it.
Okay, or Pam, can you
Not
go to
approve it.
either the previous page or the next page that would show the original, the current? Yeah, the GIS map is probably it. Yeah, so that's the existing layout
Correct.
with the one large lot and the two smaller ones. And then go back to the previous one, which is now what's proposed. Yep.
So this goes away.
All right. So are there any board members who feel that I should not sign this as and you know, a subdivision is not required here, a subdivision application? All right, I'm not seeing any hands. All right, so we've got consensus on that, and Pam or Walker, I can make an appointment to stop by and sign the plan.
If you let me know, Doug, when you think you might be coming, I'll secure us a room.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. I guess it's only 9:30. Does anybody, I mean, let me just run through the other sort of usual things. Are there any ZBA applications we need to know about, Pam or Walker? Nope.
I don't have a report. Nope.
Nope.
All right, how about the SPP, SPR, SUB applications? Sounds like we may have a project come in on the 1st.
We have 174 Amity, which I think I brought up at the last meeting as a site plan review for an affordable duplex.
Okay. So we'll have that at the next meeting. All right.
Doug, I
Bruce.
should say that I'll be recusing myself from that, but I will be in the attendees. Well, if I was licensed, I would be the architect, but I'm not. But I'm functioning as the architect and the designer, and I'm deeply involved in this project. So I will be in the attendees and most interested in the outcome.
All right, thanks, Bruce. Okay, I guess this is our last meeting of this cycle of appointments. So Johanna will come off the board. She told us at the last meeting that was her last meeting with us. And Jesse and Fred are renewing, I believe. So another couple of years with you guys. Thanks for renewing.
Sure.
More fun, Jesse.
As long as we can promise more meetings like tonight.
Okay. All right. Well, I don't have anything else to say other than I will see you in July. Walker or Pam, anything you want to say for staff?
No, the only thing I had was the design standards, and I mentioned that earlier. So
Yeah. Okay. Time I see is 9:31 and we are adjourned. See you on July 1st.
Right.
Good night.
Morning.